everyone. My name is Morgan Janella. Thank you for joining us for Columbia Business School's Deferred Enrollment Program information session. I hope you are all having a lovely afternoon or evening or early morning or middle of the night, wherever you are logging in from around the world. I'm looking forward to taking the next 30 minutes or so to share more about Columbia Business School, our Deferred Enrollment Program, and the application process with all of you. Our agenda for this webinar is as follows. We'll talk a bit about why deferred enrollment. I'll talk more about the CBS experience, including academics, careers, and community. And lastly, we will discuss the application process. I'm also fortunate to be joined by my colleague, Katie, who will be helping manage the Q&A box. So if you do have questions during the presentation, feel free to use the Q&A box. I would also encourage you to listen to the presentation. We will save time for questions at the end, but the Q&A box is there. Okay, 1 second here. All righty. So why are some of you considering deferred enrollment program? I'm assuming many of you are still in college, perhaps college seniors in your final semester, or perhaps sophomores and juniors, so a bit earlier in your academic career. But I think deferred enrollment program, applying to CBS through our deferred enrollment program, is really a great opportunity to secure admission to CBS early and have the flexibility to pursue your goals and passions through employment before matriculating. And our deferred enrollment program is structured such that there is a lot of flexibility in when you start. So if you're admitted to CBS through the deferred enrollment program, you would matriculate to CBS within 2 to 5 years after graduation. So you can start at CBS when the time is right for you. During your deferral period, we do have a variety of ways to stay engaged with the CBS community, whether this is through your Slack group with fellow deferred enrollment program admitted students. We invite our students to attend our conferences at either a discounted or even free rate to attend our conferences. We've hosted admitted student days. We're going to invite you to as many of the guest speakers and special events as we're able to. So again, it's a really great way to get your foot into the CBS network before even starting your MBA degree. And again, that network of just those CBS DEP students is a really special network to be a part of. We launched the program in 2019. So we already have 3 cohorts of students that have been growing and getting to know each other. So it's a great opportunity to build your network in those early stages of your career. Some of you might also be thinking, why an MBA? There's a lot of graduate degrees out there, but I think one of the big things about the MBA is it really gives you the toolkit to be a leader in any industry. Our students go on to a wide variety of career paths, but the MBA, our MBA, a CBS MBA, is going to give you that foundational business knowledge to be successful on any career path. We'll give you the management skills, the leadership skills that you can really use in any job post MBA. Again, I've talked a lot about network. Your classmates are usually about 45% international. So you are meeting students from all over the world. So it's really just a great way to develop your soft skills as well. You'll partner with the Career Center, you'll partner with Academic Affairs. There are just so many resources for you in an MBA program, whether you want to pivot and change career paths entirely, or maybe you're looking to stay on a similar career path and just move up. The MBA gives you a lot of flexibility and a lot of transferable skills upon graduation. Looking closely at a bit of our employment history, I would encourage you to spend some time on the website too. We have our detailed employment report, but you are able to see here that there is a significant salary for the average MBA student, whether you're going into consulting, which is about 30% of the students, or whether you're going into finance, again, about 30% of the students. And again, both of those fields are very broad. But everyone at CBS does not go into banking. Yes, a lot of our students do go into banking and finance careers, but our student body, we graduate a class of 750, 800 students each year. the students are really going into a wide variety of industries. Maybe you're even starting your own business. Those are all things that you can consider with a CBS education. Media and technology, Amazon has always been one of our top employers. So you really do have the access to so many different opportunities. So again, I would encourage you to spend some time. If you're interested, on our website, you can dig into the employment report and really see where all of our students are interning in between their first and second year and or working upon graduation. And I see some people are chatting with Katie too. Great. I would encourage you to use the Q&A box. That would be the best way for my colleague Katie to help with your questions. So what's going on in CBS land? We are so excited that we just moved into our brand new campus, Manhattanville. So the business school actually moved up. We moved north. We moved north a little bit in the city to our brand new state-of-the-art buildings, Henry Kravis Hall and Geffen Hall. These are amazing 2 new buildings where the students have just already said it's such a dynamic learning environment. The admissions office, we're so excited to be there. We're just so excited to have the opportunity to have 2 new beautiful buildings, so much space for learning, gathering, socializing. I think it's really going to make a huge impact on the student experience at CBS. So while we're not currently open to visitors, I hope so soon. We will definitely be getting some virtual information on the website, at some point later this spring into the summer. So I would encourage you to take a look virtually, at least at our new campus. We also launched last year, so we now are continuing the Phillips Pathway for Inclusive Leadership. So this is a mandatory co-curricular program where students will attend events and also write reflections to help students be better and help students prepare students to be future leaders and be aware of diversity, equity, and inclusion issues. So again, the Phillips Pathway for Inclusive Leadership is a co-curricular initiative that's a required part of the curriculum, and we're really proud of that we're equipping our students with a toolkit to be successful managers in whatever industry they go to post-MBA. Our CBS degree has STEM designation for some of you that might be interested in that. So this really does help potentially working in the US be an option for some of our international students. So again, if that applies to you, I would definitely encourage you to do a bit more research on that. And then Alumni Edge, we launched last year as well too. So after you complete 2 wonderful years at CBS, there will still be many courses that you want to take on STORE. So our alumni actually have access to special classes taught by CBS professors to continue their CBS education. So again, just a lot of resources here for you. So Dean Costis Maglaris, for him, he's definitely having CBS focus on the digital transformation of business, entrepreneurship, innovation, the role of business in society. We're always looking towards the future of finance and how can CBS continue to be an expert and leader in that field. And then lastly, how can climate and sustainability be involved with the CBS educational experience? Columbia University launched the climate school very recently, and CBS will also be actively involved in climate related initiatives. So again, Dean Maglaris has many important initiatives for the school, and we're always excited to see where we go. And for those of you interested in deferred enrollment, in 2 to 5 years, I'm sure the school will be doing even more amazing things. As a CBS student, you will have access to amazing faculty members. We have about 150 full-time faculty members, about 150 adjunct faculty members. You are really getting the access to both theory and practice. Sheena Iyengar at the top, she teaches one of our popular classes, Think Bigger. Matan Griffel on the left, he teaches one of our really popular electives related to programming and Python. So again, there's just a wealth of knowledge across the school. And as a student, you have a lot of flexibility in the curriculum path you choose. Here is what your 2 years, your 2 years would look like in the curriculum. So as I mentioned earlier, CBS has a core curriculum. And that core curriculum gives you that foundational business knowledge. So your first term, whether you start in our August entry program or a January entry program, your first term starts with a leadership course during orientation. And this is a really important way to kind of assess where you are as a leader and then what you want to develop throughout your 2 years in the program. You will also have a variety of required core classes, whether it be business analytics, financial accounting. For those of you that might be business undergrad majors right now, know that if admitted and if you decided to matriculate, you could potentially exempt out of a core class and you would just start your electives earlier. So we admit students without a business background, we admit students with a business background. The core is developed to give everyone that foundational business knowledge. And if you do have specific expertise, again, you can just potentially exempt out of a couple classes and perhaps start your electives earlier. You'll see then here in your second term, you have one little elective, operations management, wonderful elective. It's half term, but then you're starting your electives in term 2, and then term 3 and 4, your final 2 semesters in the program are entirely electives. So it's up to you what courses you want to take. Obviously you will consult with faculty and your academic advisors, but you have a lot of agency to develop the academic path you want to take at CBS, and how will your academic curriculum, how will your academic classes supplement your career goals? So again, there's a lot of flexibility here at CBS. The other point I like to note on this slide is there's a special composition to your classes. So at CBS, we bring in about 550, 600 students in the August entry, 200, 230 students in the January entry. And those might seem small or big, I guess, depending on your undergraduate experience. But what we do is we're going to divide you into a cluster. So your cluster is about 70 students or so. It's a microcosm of the class. So we are spreading out students from all different industries, from all parts of the world. We're spreading you out into the different clusters. And you're going to take all of your core classes with your cluster mates. So again, it's this home base for you. It's a little bit more of a manageable experience. So 70 or so students, you're going to take stats together. You're going to take marketing together. You're really going to get to know each other well. You're going to do social events in the evenings as well. And then even further, we put you on a learning team. Your learning team is about 5 to 6 people, different industry backgrounds within your cluster. So you will work on all of your homework assignments and group projects with your learning teammates. CBS is definitely a very collaborative learning environment. So you will lean a lot on your classmates. And again, this kind of relates back to why students that apply through deferred enrollment, why we've designed it such that you matriculate within 2 to 5 years after graduation. So after working full-time for at least 2 years, no more than 5, you'll start at CBS because we want you to be an active contributor in the classroom. We want to make sure you've had a job, maybe you loved it, maybe you hated it, maybe you were challenged or succeeded in ways you never thought, but you're going to bring those professional experiences to the classroom. So yes, you're going to learn a lot from the faculty members, but you're also going to learn a lot from your classmates. So that's why we do value work experience. And that's why with DEP, you secure your admission now, but then for 2 to 5 years, you're working full-time before you come start the degree. We've spent a lot of time on academics, but I think it's always important to give you a snapshot because that is one of the main pillars of your CBS experience. We also then have careers. Obviously, the goal of your job, the goal of the MBAs is to get your ideal job post MBA. The Career Center provides fabulous support for our students. They are a dedicated team, and they really provide varied resources for you, whether you're going to meet with an advisor, so a career management center advisor. So these are professionals that have typically worked in industry prior to coming to CBS. They work full-time in the Career Center and they are there for resume prep, interview prep, life prep, whatever it might be. The CMC, the Career Management Center advisors are there to help you achieve your goals. It's definitely a partnership. You as the student, are definitely an active participant in driving your job search and being proactive, but they're there to support you. We also then have our coaches. This might be an alumni career coach who's, 10 years out from their CBS degree, who have been working, maybe at your dream company. So you have the opportunity to meet with these alumni career coaches. We also have career fellows. Career fellows are second-year students who have just gone through the recruiting process. So they really have that intricate, up-to-date information. and serve as informal advisors for a group of first years. And then lastly, if you're looking for that 360 view, we have our executives in residence. So these are oftentimes former C-level executives that have 30 plus years of experience. So they have been in the working world for many years, and they really just have a wealth of knowledge, and they essentially give back their time to CBS students to help you kind of navigate your career path. So I mentioned the 3 buckets: academics, careers, and then community. So much of the CBS experience is getting to know your classmates, whether through student clubs, whether through trips, whether through CBS Matters. I would just really encourage you, in the coming months, in the coming years, perhaps try to connect with a current student to learn more about the CBS community. We have a contact a student search tool on our website. We also now have some deferred enrollment program students that were, admitted in 2019. So they started in 2021. So we even have some deferred enrollment program students that have matriculated and started in the program. So we're happy to help make connections. And I just would encourage you to, like you're doing by joining this webinar, continuing to get to know the school. Okay, so again, that was a pretty high level overview of CBS, touching on the academics, the careers, and the community. I think, and I'm assuming many of you, I know there's quite a few of you today, are here because you're really interested in the nitty-gritty of how to apply the deferred enrollment program at CBS. So again, we'll take this kind of final portion of the deck before we turn it over to questions, and I will be able to walk through specifically the application process. Okay, so first, who's eligible to apply for DEP? So if you are in your final year of study during college, so typically college seniors, you are eligible to apply for DEP. You would also be eligible to apply for DEP this cycle if you started a master's degree, if you started a full-time master's degree directly after your undergraduate degree. This does exclude law school and med school, though. We know they're just slightly different programs. So again, if you're in a 1-year master's program, perhaps, maybe you're getting your master's in accounting after you finish your BA degree, as long as you went right into that master's program and are a full-time student, you're eligible to apply for DEP this year. I know there might be some individualized and nuanced situations. So again, you'll see our emails at the end. You can always email us, and we're happy to have a one-on-one conversation. So for the deferred enrollment program application, and it's available on our website, I would encourage you to go in, create an account, open up an application, click around. It's all there. I don't think there's any surprises, but I would encourage you to just open it up, start to fill it out, see what we're asking. But I'll be here to walk through it for you as well. So we will ask for that online application form, where you live, where you're from, etc. So please do complete that. We actually waive the application fee for our deferred enrollment program students. So again, that's another kind of plus of DEP. Applying while still in school, there is no application fee. You'll see the application process is a bit more streamlined, not quite as long as the full-time application. So again, another plus of applying via DEP. We will ask you to upload your unofficial transcripts during the application process. So, wherever you're getting your BA degree from, maybe if you studied abroad for a semester, we will ask you to upload your unofficial transcripts. You will be asked to enter your GPA as it currently stands. No need to convert. If you're not on a 4.0 scale, don't convert your GPA, still just enter it as is. If your school doesn't have a GPA, you can enter 0. Again, don't convert your GPA, enter it as it is. You can always use the optional essay to write us a couple sentences. I wish it wasn't even called optional essay, it's called optional bullet points. You can always use the optional essay to write us a couple sentences if you need to explain anything. But I would say continue to work hard senior year. You've got your last semester. I'm sure you've all worked extremely hard. I know it's been a certainly unique college experience for many of you, given COVID and virtual learning in various parts of the world. So we know the past 2 years have not been normal. But I would encourage you to continue focusing on your studies, graduate with a great GPA. We'll be looking forward to seeing that in the application. We will also ask you to submit a standardized test. And at CBS, we accept the GMAT, GRE, or executive assessment. So I encourage you to take whichever test you feel most comfortable with. I will say again, another plus of DEP is, research has shown taking the standardized test while you're still in school, you're still in this academic mindset, it's actually a lot more manageable. So it's much easier to take the GMAT right now than in 3 years when you haven't taken a test in quite a few years, or you haven't opened up a book to study. And you are going to have way more time. You have way more time in your schedule right now than you will once you're working full-time post-MBA. So again, taking that standardized test, take it now. Your scores are good for 5 years. So while I hope you do apply to DEP at CBS, you don't end up applying this year. Your scores will still be valid for 5 years. So they can still be used for, XYZ down the line. We will also ask you to upload your resume, a standard professional resume. If you haven't started a resume yet, I would definitely encourage you to reach out to the career centers at your schools. They usually are a great resource. On our end, we're looking for a standard resume. It should be about 1 page in length. Given most of you, I'm assuming, would still be in school when you're applying, I would really recommend a 1-page resume, highlighting what you've been up to, perhaps through an internship, or how have you been involved with activities during undergrad. If you have full-time jobs, if you have a full-time job lined up for after graduation, please feel free to indicate that on your resume too. We definitely want to know if you have your post-MBA plans, your post-BA plans lined up. It's also okay if you don't know your plans yet upon graduation. It's only, it's January 26th. Don't worry. I feel like for many of you, you've just returned for your final semester. So, obviously there's still plenty of time to figure out your career path post-MBA. But know that if you do know your plans, we would love to know them. Okay, all right. So lastly, two, but then we have another side. So 1 letter of recommendation. This could be from a professor, an internship supervisor. Is there a student club you're really involved with? And is this the advisor to the club? Again, it's up to you. And we're just really looking for 1 person that can speak to your academic and/or professional abilities. The recommendation letter will come in through our online portal. So with the application form, the transcript, the test score, the resume, you'll be uploading or entering all of that in the system. With the recommendation letter, you will enter your recommender's name and email address, and then our system will send them an email asking them to upload it. You can actually do that even before you submit your portion of the application. That way your recommender has plenty of time to submit. And then, there we go. We then have 2 short answer questions. And again, I mentioned the DEP application is a bit more streamlined than the full-time application. So again, one of the advantages to applying through DEP, a little less word count. But you're all writing college papers all the time, so I don't think this will be a challenge. We're asking you 2 short answer questions. So we are interested in knowing, why are you interested in CBS? Why do you want to get an MBA down the line? Why a CBS MBA? Again, by attending this event, you're learning more about CBS. So we definitely want to know why. Tell us a bit more about your career goals. There's not a specific answer to this question. We just want to get to know you better. And then the second short answer question is, who is a leader you admire and why? Again, there is no right or wrong answer here. This is just another opportunity for the committee to get to know you. Katie and I read applications all day long, depending on the time of year. And the essays are really an amazing opportunity to get to know you individually. So thank you for the time you take crafting these short answer questions. And they're only 300 words. Sometimes that's a bit more challenging. Sometimes, you might want to draft the essay or draft the short answer, and then you can always go back and trim it down. But we do look forward to getting to know you. Alrighty. And then what are our deadlines? So With the deferred enrollment program, we would ask that you submit your application by April 15th. There's no advantage to submitting it before April 15th. However, if you're the type of person that likes to cross it off your to-do list and be like, okay, done, check, not worry about it, please, by all means, go ahead, click submit. I know we already have some applications in our system now. You're not going to hear from us sooner, but you can certainly cross it off your list and focus on graduation festivities, in April. So please do plan to submit by April 15th. Also, we can't review your application until that recommendation letter comes in. So we're only going to review a complete file. So I would encourage you to give your recommender plenty of time to submit that letter. But like I said, you can actually go in today and enter the name and email of your recommender, and they could go in and submit their letter, and it'll just wait in the waiting room, the electronic waiting room, until you submit your portion of the application. Once your application is submitted and it's complete, and on April 15th, your application will go under review to the committee, and we would then decide whether or not to extend an interview invitation. So for those of you that were submitted and complete by April 15th, you will know if you've been invited to interview by April 30th. If invited to interview, which again, it's another positive step in the process where we just want to continue to get to know you better and kind of dig deeper into your career goals and interest into CBS, you would interview virtually with generally, a current student or a recent graduate, and even sometimes an admissions officer. But you would know that when you received your invitation to interview, and we typically schedule those during the month of May. So it's our hope that you would receive, potentially happy news on or around graduation day for those of you that are our college seniors this year. Once your interview report is received, we would give you a final decision within 2 weeks. So we do try to be efficient on our end of things. Some other important dates to be aware of. So for those of you applying in this cycle, so for DEP 2022, the first entry term available to you, if you are working full-time, would be August 2024 entry. So you have to be working full-time and you have to be gainfully employed. So this is, a substantial job, substantial work experience, you're contributing to your professional development. You have to be working full-time in order to matriculate with just 2 years of work experience. What I'm seeing from a lot of students is it's more 3-4-ish years seems to be when people want to matriculate, which kind of makes sense. On average for the MBA program, students have between 4 and 5 years upon matriculation. So that's putting our DEP students in with the whole MBA class. You could potentially take the full 5 years, but you would need to matriculate through DEP, through your DEP admission. You would need to matriculate by August 2028, which, oh my goodness, that seems very, very far away. We have 2 entry points, August or January. So when the time is right for you, we have colleagues on our team that will be available to chat with you about which entry point makes the most sense for you. When admitted, so if admitted this May, June, we would ask you to submit your admission response. This is the yellow box. We would ask you to submit your admission response form as well as the $500 tuition deposit. That $500 tuition deposit will secure your spot, and that would ultimately go towards tuition in the year in which you plan to matriculate. Once you know the year you plan to matriculate and give us your intent, and there is a formalized process for that, that is the year that you would be considered for merit fellowships, and or you would be given the opportunity to submit the financial aid application to be considered for need-based aid. So yes, DEP students are eligible for merit aid as well as need-based aid, but that wouldn't be until the year you plan to matriculate. And then as I just noted, each year you'll touch base with us. You'll touch base with us multiple times, but each year there will be a formal deferral continuation fee and brief employment update. So that's our way of maintaining connection with you every year and making sure you're still interested in CBS. And that way we can stay in touch too, what you're up to career-wise. All right. So I think those are all of our slides. I hope that you found that overview of the DEP application process and nuances of DEP intent to matriculate. I hope you found that helpful. I know Katie was getting a ton of questions. I see a lot there still. So we still have some time for questions for the group.
Yes, lots of great questions coming in. So thank you to everyone. I've indicated some already that I want to answer live based on how many upvotes they received. But if as you're scrolling through, you see a question you would like answered, just upvote it. And that's how we will know that it's a popular question that needs answering. So the first question I want to answer is kind of prioritizing or deciding which pieces of the application to prioritize, given that you are so busy and even attending events and networking. So I would say the first thing, in my opinion, to get out of the way is that standardized test, just because that does take time to study for. So certainly, I think working on the standardized test, whether it's GMAT, GRE, or executive assessment, is certainly something to prioritize, because you do want to allow yourself time to take it at least once. Some folks take it more than once, so you never want to sit for it and feel like you didn't achieve your highest score possible. So I think allowing a lot of time for that is important. And then I turn my attention to essays for sure, because those do take some time to write thoroughly and make sure that you're really comfortable and confident with what you've presented to us. And finally, don't underestimate the importance of giving your recommender a fair amount of time to work on their recommendation. As Morgan mentioned, we cannot review your application and it's not considered complete until we have that recommendation letter. So I always say, give your recommender a false deadline of maybe 2 weeks prior to when you actually need it, to make sure that they get that done in time. So I hope that helps. And I know there's a lot to do in addition to finishing up your undergraduate degree. So please know that even attending this event is a big step in working on your application and getting that done. The next question I want to touch on is, what's the most valuable thing for applicants to have and present in their applications, especially in the essays? I think in the essays, we are looking to get to know you better, because that's really our only opportunity, aside from the interview, which if you're offered an interview, we do get to know you quite well there, but it's your first opportunity to introduce yourself to the admissions committee and show a little bit more about who you are. So I think really focusing on using your authentic voice in the essay is really important, making sure it sounds like you, thinking about the prompt, and making sure that you're answering the prompt in your essay answer. I know that that's something we joke about on the admissions team, but it does happen more often than you think, that people will kind of write what they are excited to write about rather than the answer to the question. So make sure you're answering the prompt for sure, and then make sure you're using your authentic voice and allowing us to get to know you better. I think one trick that sometimes we recommend to ensure that you're achieving those two things of answering the prompt and speaking authentically is sharing your essays with someone who knows you well but isn't as close to you in this process, giving them your drafts and saying, without the prompts attached, and saying, A, does it sound like me? And B, can you guess the prompt that I was trying to answer? And that can be a great way to A, have someone review your essays, but also B, learn if you've achieved those two things. So I hope that's helpful. Okay, recommendation letters. I think I saw a lot of different variations of this question around what we're looking for in a recommendation letter. So if someone, basically having someone speak to only one side of your background, academic or professional, is totally okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And we understand that someone who knows you best might not know both sides. For example, if there's a professor or advisor that you've had who knows you very well, they might just have a sense of your academic background, and that's totally okay. I think the person who knows you best, who will be able to speak most in a very detailed way to your background and your experience and your strengths is who you should pick. Someone who will be able to tell specific anecdotes to us to really give examples. That's what's really powerful for our team rather than someone who knows you at more of a surface level. So I would say be thoughtful in the choice of recommender, and especially if you're asking professors, again, they are likely writing many recommendations this time of year. So I would just make sure you give them plenty of leeway and room and time to write those recommendations for you. Okay. So next question, I think this is an interesting one, and I'd love to hear, Morgan, what you think as well about putting the deferred enrollment program on your resume if you've been admitted to the program, and whether or not that's something you should be telling employers, future employers about, given that there might be some kind of conflict there. They know that you're going to potentially leave in the next 2 to 5 years. Any thoughts on that to start, Morgan?
That is a good one, Katie. I think, unfortunately, the answer is it probably depends. It depends on the industry, perhaps. It's certainly appropriate to put on a resume that you've been admitted to CBS through the deferred enrollment program. I would definitely make sure you are clearly saying you've been admitted through the deferred enrollment program, with the expectation that you would matriculate in 2 to 5 years. I would always encourage you to be factual and honest on your resume. For some employers, they might think, oh, that's great. Like maybe this is the type of job where they usually see their employees staying for 2-3 years and then moving on to XYZ opportunity. There might be some employers that are looking for somebody to be there for 5, 6, 7 years. So again, I think it's just going to kind of depend. My gut is saying industries that are familiar with MBA programs will be a bit more understanding and open to the deferred enrollment program, where maybe industries that don't have as many MBAs, they might be a bit confused. So I think you're just going to have to kind of gauge the situation. I would also encourage you to utilize your, currently you could utilize your undergraduate career center, but then if admitted to CBS through DEP, you could always reach out to our team and we would help provide guidance if we could.
I was just about to say the same thing, Morgan, that I think if admitted to CBS, we'd certainly offer guidance, or you'd have your peer group of fellow folks who are intending to matriculate, seeing kind of what other folks have done if there are folks in similar industries to you. So that's a tricky one, but
you'll eventually be able to post it in the Slack group. See the advice your fellow DE peers would give.
But great question. We have a question around median GMAT score for accepted candidates. So it's not something we have publicly on our class profile, but we do have that range. I would also point you to our full-time MBA class profile, where the average GMAT is about a 729. So I think aiming around that range is a good place to target. Okay. This is a great question about final grades for your semester, because you'll likely be applying before you have your transcript for spring. So you would apply with the GPA that's listed on like fall 2021, right, Morgan? And then you would share with us, right? I'm doing the math in my head. And then you would share with us your final transcript once that's available to you, but we understand that you won't have that transcript just yet upon application, because you'll likely still be finishing up your spring semester, and that's totally okay. Okay. Can you apply to the 3 or 4 year JD MBA program through DEP or during the deferment period following an acceptance to DEP?
Okay, short answer, no, you cannot apply for the 3-year JD MBA or the 4-year JD MBA during the deferred enrollment program application. Through that application, no, cannot. If admitted to DEP and you're interested then in potentially pursuing the 3-year JD MBA, the 4-year JD MBA, or a dual with our School of International Public Affairs, a dual degree with our School of Public Health, you could apply at a later date. You would just need to time your application correctly. For the 3-year JD MBA, your first year is required to be at the law school. So you would need to time your application to the law school such that you are admitted at the law school and will have obtained at least 2 years of full-time work experience before starting at the law school. Because then during your first year at the law school, you could then potentially give your intent to matriculate at CBS the following year. I would definitely say if this is something you're seriously interested in, you're going to want to communicate with us in advance. So I would want to make sure we're having an individualized conversation. For all of the other dual degrees currently, so dual with SEPA, dual with mailman, that's the School of International Public Affairs and the School of Public Health. 99% of the time, your first year is going to be at CBS anyway. So you could be at CBS your first term and then decide to apply for one of those dual degrees.
Great. Sorry, thanks, Morgan. And I just want to answer this one last question. Thank you, Raphael, for opening your application. I can tell that you have, based on the way that you've asked this question. So yes, in our application, we ask for 3 professional activities and 3 academic activities. It's absolutely okay that those mirror what's on your resume already. We understand that might be a little bit redundant, but you might have more opportunity in that area than in your resume to describe those activities. So absolutely okay with those overall.
Thank you, Katie. And again, thank you for managing the many, many questions. I see so many of them. So I hope for many of you, I hope Katie and I were able to cover most, if not all of your questions, but we recognize this is a short amount of time. I would encourage you, feel free to email us. Our general email account is up here, apply@gsb.columbia.edu. That's really the best way to get your questions submitted to us, and a team member will get back to you. We will also be doing more events. I think we have another webinar for DEP coming up towards the end of February. So I would encourage you to continue attending events to get to know CBS. And thank you again for your interest in learning more about Columbia Business School and learning more about the Deferred Enrollment Program. We look forward to seeing many applications from you. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, evening, morning, and congratulations on senior year for many of you. All right, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.